Welcome to Channel 230 News, where our research is reliable and valid. Joining us today is our favorite weather reporter, Weather Hervasio. Crunching some charts, we have our very own Ray Charles Reyes. And joining us with the sports today, Camille Get Off the Court. I'm Bill, is our news. Breaking news. Researchers who are out in the field are studying a question and making their research public for the very first time since February 2017. They're asking the question, do prosthetics such as partial or full dentures negatively affect the temporomandibular joint? It's the age-old question, both figuratively and literally. We join Linda on site, who has one of our researchers with her to answer some questions about their research. Linda?
Thanks, Bill. This is Linda reporting live from the Provo Rec Center, where elderly people are gathering.
Great, Linda. So what can you tell us about this population sample?
Well, these are elderly people aged 60 to 80 from the Provo-Orem area, predominantly Caucasian, living independently.
And you have a researcher with you, correct?
Yes, we do. We have Camille with us here today. So, we have one of our researchers here, Camille. Tell me a little bit more about your research.
Okay, so today we're trying to determine if a partial or full ill-fitting denture contributes to TMJ disorder. So while we're having the elderly patients here, we're going to get to talk to them and ask them a few questions to find out if TMJ does relate to dentures.
So what sort of questions will you be asking?
We'll be asking kind of, do full dentures contribute to TMJ? Do partials? Do missing teeth? Kind of different things with your jaw if those are causing pain.
Wow, fascinating. So how did you select your sample?
We chose a convenient sample right here at the Provo Recreation Center. So people are coming for a free meal, and we're going to do some oral education. This is non-experimental, but we'll get to that later.
So some of our sources tell us that you're having a problem with a language barrier.
It's true. We do know we have a few Spanish speakers out there in the audience, but luckily we have our linguistic expert, Rachel. She is going to interpret for us today.
We have a special appearance from a participant, Raquel. Hello, Raquel. So, how do you feel about the research?
La verdad, no sabía lo que estaba pasando. Solo estuve ahí sentada comiendo mi comida.
Wow. I'm sure she made some great points, but as for us English viewers, we probably don't know what she's saying. Well, back to you, Bill.
Hey, this is Susie from Channel 230 News, interviewing Dr. Allen on his professional opinion on the following. Dr. Allen, how often do you see patients with dentures and partial dentures?
Susie, that's a great question. I see patients probably at least twice a week, but not very often. There you go, Susie. Next question.
Thanks so much. Yeah, that's real nice.
Sorry.
Of those patients, would you say that many of them have ill-fitting dentures?
Amanda, let me tell you about the ill-fitting dentures. I see patients, probably half have ill-fitting dentures of the 2 I see a week. Here you go, Jennifer.
Okay, well, what kind of concerns would you have for those patients?
You know, Amanda, my biggest concern would be, one, they're not taking them out and keeping things clean, which could lead to other issues. And two, it could, if it's ill-fitting dentures, lead to jaw and, problems like that, jaw pain, TMJ pain, things like that.
You actually led into our very next question. Do you think that ill-fitting dentures would lead to jaw pain? And why is that?
See, I am a little psychic, so I know that type of stuff of what you're going to ask. And yes, I am married. I knew you were going to ask that. But what was the question? Sorry, I forgot.
Do you think that ill-fitting dentures could lead to jaw pain? You said that you did, so why?
So the problem is, if the denture's not fitting correctly, they're biting incorrectly, it's similar to wearing bad shoes. If you're walking around in bad shoes, it can lead to joint, foot pain, that type of thing. Same with ill-fitting dentures. Here you go, Laura.
Thank you so much, Dr. Allen. That was Susie.
Oh,
with
Susie.
230 News.
Who's the best teacher at UCDH?
Dr. Allen.
That's what I thought.
And this is Susie with the 230 News, here with Professor Green at UCDH, a hygienist. So, Professor Green, we're dying to know, how often do you see patients with dentures or partials?
In my practice, maybe 5% of the patients I see have dentures or partials.
Very precise. I love it. So, of those 5%, would you say that a lot of them have ill-fitting dentures or partials?
Most of them have ill-fitting dentures or partials. It's a very big concern and a significant complaint with those patients.
And why would you say it's a big concern?
It's a concern because they end up with sores in their mouths, and those sores then have them taking the dentures out. When they take the dentures out, they're then not able to chew properly, they're not getting proper nutrition, they're experiencing pain and sensitivity. It's a vicious cycle.
I didn't know it could be that severe. That's
Vicious.
Yeah, I like that. That choice of words is great. All right, so the last question I have for you is, do you think that ill-fitting dentures could contribute to TMJD or to the jaw pain?
I'm certain that it can. If you're not chewing properly, if you're not biting properly, then your joint is not properly supported, which then would cause pain. Similar to wearing high-heeled shoes. We wear high-heeled shoes, it puts our, for those ladies out there, our knees, our ankles are out of the normal position and it causes us pain later. It would be the same thing if you're wearing an ill-fitting denture.
Very interesting and very familiar. And that's Professor Green at UCDH. Thank you.
Who's the best teacher at UCDH?
Professor Pierce.
Hello, this is Susie with Channel 230 News. And we have here Krishalicious and Katie K. They are both students at the Utah College of Dental Hygiene, and we have a few questions that we are dying to ask you. The first one is, have either of you seen a patient with dentures?
We have.
Yes. And were there any special concerns that you had for that patient?
The denture was very dirty. The patient had not taken care of it as well as she should have.
Yeah, and it also makes eating a little bit more difficult.
Gotcha. So what recommendations would you make for a patient in that situation?
Daily cleaning of the denture.
I agree. Clean it more often.
Very interesting. That was a fantastic interview with students from Utah College of Dental Hygiene. Hi, Susie, one more time at the 230 News. We're here with Becca, also a student from the Utah College of Dental Hygiene, and she has some fantastic information for us. Or does she? I don't think she does. Okay, the first question is, have you ever seen a patient with dentures or other prosthetics?
Yes, last semester I saw a patient with a fixed partial denture or a bridge.
Excellent. Good use of terminology. The other question is, what problems did you see in that patient? Any special needs?
With him especially, he would get food stuck under the pontic, and he would just use a toothpick to get it out, and that you could tell his gum tissue was kind of irritated because of that. And so for him, I recommended using those little like Christmas tree brushes. They're called proxy brushes, just a little softer on the gums to get the food out from under there.
Excellent. I didn't even have to ask her the third question. She answered it. That is a great recommendation. Thank you, Becca.
No problem.
From UCDH, and this is Susie from 230 News.
Oh, thank you for those wonderful insights. And let me add, I think that this correlation is highly probable. We now join Camille Gethoff the court for our sports report. Camille? Hey Bill, so we are looking right now. Team bias versus team validity. We have some of the new stats in from this game during the semi-final championship round. So it looks like right here we have Steve Mortality. We started with about 45 players, but Steve Mortality, he ran right in, took it down to 23 players. And I think based off of the convenient sample that we selected from Provo, it looks like team bias has a really big advantage in this game. So it's a total toss-up to see whether we get valid responses or not. So right now we're going to turn to a clip with our commentators and see just how this game is progressing. All right, if you're joining us, we are in the semifinal rounds for the championship between Team Validity versus Team Bias. We have the three researchers right up here in the field with the opponents right here, but oh my gosh, Steve Mortality takes them out.
I haven't seen that since the 90s.
All right, this researcher, he's coming right up to educate this person, but oh no! Mortality takes again. This is not a good year for Team Bias.
What a loss.
All right, we're getting the results of the scores right now. So it looks like the median age for the players was about 65 years old. The mean was about 73.9 years old, give or take a little bit with the margin of error. We have the mode, the most common age group is about 71 to 80 years old. It looks like with the ratio for men, it was about 11 to 8 would wear partial or full dentures. The women ratio of the players was 11 to 4 that would wear partial or full dentures. The most common denture wearers of all the players was the age group of 71 to 80 years old. So it looks like because we selected this as a convenient sample of the Provo area, it looks like Team Bias has a huge up on the other team because they are more independent people. The players were able to drive themselves to the luncheon, so they were more independent. And it looks like, despite some of the coaches' best efforts, it looks like some of the players were a little bit tired by the end. They didn't really feel like answering the questions on the post-test, so that skewed the results a little bit. All right, this was a non-experimental observational game. Does this make my hair look fake? Oh, thank you, Camille, for that adrenaline-filled report. We now turn to a message about a new hit Broadway musical called Literature, after a message from our sponsors.
Does your breath stink? Do your gums bleed? Then come to UCDH and get clean. It's only $10.
You heard it right, $10.
So come see us at the Utah College of Dental Hygiene.
Ding! Oh, hey! We return you to Channel 230 News, where a local critic, Cynical Cindy, is going to report on the hit new Broadway musical, Literature.
Hello, and welcome to our review of the Broadway phenomena that has come about, called Literature. A review. And so, we have 3 main acts, plus a 4th smaller act, in this play. The first act is called Correlations Between Findings of Occlusal and Manual Analysis in TMJ Patients. It sounds boring, but it was exciting. The design was clinical, not experimental. The method was radiographic testing of the jaw joint. They used 111 people in the sample, or the cast, whichever. And they found that there was significant correlation between people wearing prosthetics and TMD symptoms. In fact, they found that those wearing full dentures were 3.5 times more likely to suffer from deep bite, a very malocclusion. And then in Act 2, we have influence of defective dentures on TMD. It's true. And so it was experimental. They studied MRIs of the jaws and had a control group of those with old dentures and those with new dentures. Those with new dentures did not suffer from symptoms of temporomandibular disorders, but those that had old dentures did. Don't worry, folks, it's not a full spoiler. And the third act, I'll be very brief, it was association between prosthetic factors and TMD. And then it was non-experimental. All they did was observe TMD symptoms of patients with dentures. They used 92 people and found that there was not a correlation between dentures and TMD. It left the audience a little confused. Finally, there was the final and most exciting act of the play was by yours truly. Some researchers from the Utah College of Dental Hygiene. They did a non-experimental study using surveys, questionnaires, and found that of 23 participants, there was not a strong nor a weak correlation between those with TMD and those with dentures. It depended on how you looked at it. We'll talk about that more later.
What a riveting review. I can't believe we pay people to see plays. We have with us today a very special guest star. She's one of the best research hunters in the hemisphere. Welcome, Kendall Australian.
Good day. Thanks for having me.
So, I've heard rumors that you captured a large and elusive research project. Can you tell us about how you captured it?
Defo, I started looking at the Provo Center for Elderly People's natural habitat. Now, catching some live research can be really tricky, but we decided to learn research in by making some pre-tests and by placing them on the table with pens. From there, we gave the sample population some incentives like wild toothbrushes and toothpaste and floss.
Oh, and where did these supplies come from?
They were generously donated to us by Colgate, which we obtained from hunter expert Professor Pierce.
Ooh, sounds exotic. Now tell me, what did you do after you lured the sample in with the research project?
Then we closed the trap around them and gave them oral hygiene education about brushing techniques, flossing aids, oral cancer detection, and denture care. After we had their attention captured, we asked them to fill out the post-test, which was sealed in an envelope with written instructions for them not to open until instructed.
And what about the non-American speaking researchers?
Well, Rachel, one of the researchers, wrote out the pre and post test in Spanish, in Espanol, and educated them one-on-one during the presentation.
I've heard of Espanol. Sounds exotic. So, let's get personal for a moment. How did you decide on which questions to use to snag the research?
Well, we picked questions that were mainly about if they wore dentures to establish demographic. After that, we asked if they experienced jaw pain in the morning or when chewing to get an idea of how many denture wearers had jaw pain.
Oh, did it work?
Not really. After we captured our audience, they broke free and made an escape before filling out the post test.
Wow, isn't nature wonderful? Thank you for joining us with Kendall, and we look forward to seeing her new show, Hygiene Hunter. Now, on a more serious note, we join Ray Charts Reyes to take a look at the finances of the research. Ray Charts?
Thanks, Bill. Now we're moving on to our financial report. Here we have just an overglance of the sample, aka market. It looks like it's a bear market out there for those with no missing teeth. However, those with dentures have the bull. Now, moving on to our TMJD accounts. We have here some comparisons of TMJD account owners. Those that reported symptoms of TMJD were found in the 70 to 88-year-old category, the highest rates. Closely followed up by these two, and in last place, the 50 to 60-year-olds. But don't worry, folks, they'll catch up soon. Moving on over here, a little more on the TMJD symptom accounts. We have here that 50% of the symptoms seem to be owned by those wearing dentures and or partials, while only 30% belong to those with no missing teeth. And then in between, missing some teeth, we have 15% of the symptoms. And finally, here we have our account maintenance section. It looks like people are not protecting their investments very well. We have 1 denture wearer, 2 denture wearer, and 3 denture wearers who are relatively good at taking care of their dentures. However, the majority, 50% of denture wearers, had waited over 10 years to maintenance their dentures. Overall, the statistics are a little disturbing.
We now turn to the weather with Weather Hervasio. We will see whether we will weather this report. Oh, ha, ha. Weather?
Thank you, Bill. As heat waves move into our data collection, it seems we've had a drought of information. Due to little precipitation we received during the event, it was forecast that the percent of denture wearers front and the hypothesis of the people experienced TMJ front would miss each other by miles. However, it seems like these fronts may actually collide into a correlation. 25% of denture wearers reported symptoms of TMJ, but on the other hand, 50% of those people reporting TMJ were denture wearers. Strong correlation. You decide. It seems the heat of bias due to a small population may be stronger than the storm. Due to icy compounds, 1 out of 3 denture wearers reported TMJ. 1 had arthritis, and the other frequently ate hard foods, which could contribute to TMJD. The hypothesis, unfortunately, is not proven nor disproven, and more research is needed. So we don't really know exactly what the weather will be like today. Back to you, Bill.
Whew, That weather report almost blew me away. And you know, it sounds like that correlation between TMJ and denture wear is cloudy at best. Well, on behalf of 230 News, this is Bill. I want to say good night and good research.